we could do? We could do like the Fraud Bros occasional episode, you know? So, and then we just talk fraud. So, hey everybody, welcome to a impromptu episode of the Fraud Boxer podcast, where Alexander and I are just gonna fraud bro out and just talk about fraud, talk about our lives, kind of like a morning show style is what I'm picturing in my head in some way. But basically, you texted me yesterday. I was golfing. You said you got your internet back up. So I said, let's record something just off the cuff, no notes, no nothing, because I think you and I are capable. So how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. The last few months have been hectic, and like you mentioned, the internet situation, I wasn't too pleased with a certain carrier's performance.
They are in our circle, so we can't name and shame too much.
So no, everything's back up and running. I moved to Arizona, had no AC for a week and a half, but that got fixed a couple of days ago.
And just so everybody knows, the time that we're recording this, because I don't know when we're going to finally release this episode, but the time we're recording this is when the whole world is like in this massive heat wave. LA, you know, we've just had like the 90s all week after the hurricane coming through. But you guys in Arizona, because you're in like the Phoenix metropolitan area, we're talking 114 degrees plus over there right now. Like that's a lot.
The day we moved here, if you went back 45 days, you would have found that we were breaking heat records. I think it was 15 or 16 times. And this is the desert that we're breaking records in. So yeah, not fun.
Yeah. Okay. So we're running this like the Joe Harris experience over here. So I'm going to Google things live from time to time. So I just looked up your weather over there. It's sitting at a balmy 85, which is not too bad. You know, we're going to be about 80 today, but it looks like you have some rain in the forecast for today with peaking out at 92, that's got to be damn near cold for you guys. You guys might be putting jackets on.
It is. My dad and I were just talking about it. I went outside on the balcony. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is tolerable. So now I have AC at a time when I didn't need AC.
Yeah. So how did you survive? I'm curious how you survived. Like, what'd you do?
I didn't. It was a sweat lodge, man. I had realizations and reflections, interscopic journeys, had the whole nine, man.
Wow, dude, that's just a lot on there. You know, it's funny because like I had texted you a couple months ago because I've been possibly entertaining the idea of relocating to Las Vegas. Been trying to buy some houses here in Los Angeles over the summer, which is like literally the worst time to buy houses. Had an offer accepted at a place, loved it. It was massive. But it failed like every inspection known to man. It had a septic tank, which is super rare in LA, and they wanted like about $40,000, a septic guy said, to make it like work, and it was kind of leaking under the foundation of this house. So I was kind of bummed about that. So I pulled my offer there, but I've been putting other offers in on other houses, and either I get outbid or there's some sketchiness. Like this one I have an offer on right now. It hasn't been accepted yet, but it's been out for 2 weeks and it's got everything I want because like I require a pool and I require working AC, and I would prefer it to be remodeled. I'll do a little bit myself. And I kind of want it to be in a certain particular area of Orange County that I live in, but they won't let anybody see the house. Like they have these pictures up that look super fake staged. They won't let anybody see the house. They said you could put an offer in contingent on inspection. And so I did, and I just put it in $100 over their asking price, which is almost $1 million. So that's the kind of stuff we have to deal with here in LA. But like, I have a problem with not being able to see this house that I potentially could pay $1 million for. And then I just got word this week that we're going to be able to look at it because the tenants have vacated all of a sudden. But the other part is this is the third time that this house has sold in 3 years. So something's wrong. Something's up. And this is like my last one. Like if this house doesn't work out, I'm probably going to start putting offers in on these Las Vegas houses that I've been looking at. So any words of advice? So I'm looking at, I believe it's the southeast area of Las Vegas. I guess what do they call it? Summerlin?
Summerlin is straight west.
So I'm telling you, I'll show. I don't know if I show where it goes on here. So Spring Valley in Rhodes Ranch, Savannah. Does that mean anything to you?
Yes, sir. Yes, that's a good area.
Is it? Because it's all HOA brown houses, and I was going to buy an HOA brown house.
True. I mean, run with it, man. That's a good area. It's off the beaten path. Everything's accessible within 10 to 15 minutes on the 215. Man, yeah.
And that's what I want is I want to be able to get to the airport in 15 minutes without traffic. I plan there's going to be traffic, but it's not going to be like LA traffic. Like I'm used to the traffic Armageddon. But like in the evening, if I wanted to go, I could probably make it to the airport. That airport's reasonably easy to get in and out of, reasonably easy to get to your gate through everything. It smells funky, but that's because it's like old school carpet and like they still let people smoke in there. So that is what it is. But also, so like my criteria for having a city is I need access to really good food. Like I love really good food. And if the coastal places typically are the ones that get the Michelin stars, inland places don't typically get them. But Las Vegas is an exception where they have world class food because it's the destination. And also on top of like the world class food, I want to be able to get DoorDash decent food too. And I feel like I can get that there. And I'm really big into golf, and I golf about once a week right now. That's my new huge thing. And I want awesome golf courses, which they have. And the airport there, like they have the most direct flights like everywhere. Like you can get a direct flight almost anywhere out of Vegas because everybody's going to Vegas. So I feel like I'm pretty well locked and loaded on that. I mean, do you have any you live there? Tell me what your thoughts were.
I guess I took that part for granted. I thought every airport flew the same. That's crazy.
Well, wait till you start
That's
seeing
crazy.
Sky Harbor, man. You're going to be hooking through Denver a lot.
All right. No, dude, everything that you said is 100%, bro. Like we have top of the line sushi, which
I love
doesn't necessarily exist everywhere.
it. Does not. It does
Everyone.
not.
Uh, Sushi's my go-to. Steak. Gordon Ramsay, I think, has 8 establishments down there. I was lucky enough to go along with our friends from OCR Labs to a dinner at the Gordon Ramsay Steakhouse, and I think it was at the Paris. Delicious and amazing. Food, entertainment. Yeah, I'll tell you, the travel time to the airport from the 215 Durango area, which is kind of what you just
Okay.
described.
Yeah, I'm looking at it here on the map.
It's right where
Yeah.
that bend on the southwest
Yeah,
is.
that's where I've been targeting is that elbow right there on the Bruce Woodbury Beltway, right by the
Yes, sir.
IKEA. There's an
Yes,
IKEA
sir.
over there.
Yeah, run it. That gets you everywhere. And the 215, unlike the 95, the 215 gets you straight to the airport. Dude, you leave an hour and
Oh
a
yeah,
half
huh?
before you need to be on your flight and you're there. So like you're good.
You said sushi so many times. I'm literally ordering DoorDash right now.
I found my
Doing it.
sushi spot here in Phoenix too. It's I guess it's on the cusp of Scottsdale. Delicious.
Scottsdale's a nice area. What is it? Is it raw?
No, I don't remember what it's called. I just know where it is.
My
But
one of my friends, London, she lives in she's always lived in Phoenix for almost her whole life. But I went and met her there years ago, and we went to the raw sushi. We have raw sushi here in LA. It's RA. But
yeah,
the ones in LA kind of get a bad rap, especially more recently, I think since COVID. But the one there was superb when I went there and met her there.
nice. I'll have to check it out. I just made my
That's like
note.
in Scottsdale proper. So yeah, so let's talk fraud. I am going through a rebrand on my stuff today. I've got the logos back from the graphics artist, as you saw, bright green. I love me some green. Keeping the purple to keep with the usual idea of the branding. We got to have a little bit of continuity on there. But I wanted the old timey radio look, so she did a really good job of making like the glove kind of like a microphone
Yeah, yeah.
was my idea, by the way. But she did a really good job of taking my ideas and making it look really like that old 50s radio broadcast, but in the spirit of what my brand is. And my brand is Talkin Fraud. And you and I are two bros talking fraud that now you live in the wonderful world of Phoenix. And could you tell the people why you moved to Phoenix possibly and what that means? And then let's talk about fraud and what you guys are seeing.
Absolutely. So it was a personal decision. My wife or my ex-wife accepted a position in Scottsdale. She's over at Club Tattoo. So if any of you locals want to go get some amazing artwork placed on your body, head on over. Her name's Michelle. And when she took the job, it kind of threw everything up in the air. Are we going to do split time with my daughter? Are we going to
Yeah.
do 1 year on, 1 year off, and all this different things? So I just said, you know what? I work remotely. I could work from Thailand if I wanted to. I'll just move along, right? And so, in an effort to keep our family together, we all moved out here, moved into one house for about a
Oh,
month until I could figure out what it was that I was doing, and now I've done what I'm doing, and everything's good.
you guys have maintained a pretty positive relationship for your daughter, right? For the most part.
Yes, I make a conscious effort to only speak highly of my ex and to hug my ex when we're together and make sure that Kinley is respecting my her mother and every
Yeah.
opportunity I have. Yes.
Yeah, for anybody that does like follow you on social media too, like they know that your daughter is your whole entire world, your reason for existence. Anybody that's been on any of your presentations, like people, I think I've been in multiple of yours, and everybody always asks like, what made you change? And you always say, I had a daughter, and
Yeah.
I needed to be serious. So
Yes, sir.
yeah. So what do you see and what are you working on these days? What's going on in the world of fraud in your house these days?
So I'm taking a. We've heard about the holistic approach when it comes to one platform, and we've heard about the holistic approach as it applies to technology and where it might sit. I am trying to take the holistic approach as it pertains to the entire marketplace and see where I can help.
Okay.
The thing that I see as missing is clarity. We know that our goal is to fight fraud, but we don't quite collectively. There are amazing minds out there, just like you and the founder of Approved Corwin and all of our friends. Right, there's amazing minds out there, but collectively over the whole expanse of the marketplace, we don't have clarity. Right, and it's hard to get clarity because we're dealing with so many different variables. We're dealing with so many different tactics that fraudsters are throwing at us, and so my primary focus is to work with people so that they can gain clarity as to where their exposure is, where their vulnerabilities might be, what they have currently in place. And with that initiative being placed on my desk, we'll say, I'm moving forward with assessments and trainings that I offer different
Okay.
organizations.
So is that stuff that you're doing on your own, or is that part of approved? Okay, this is part of the dispute defense then, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Excellent. Yeah, I think like when you and I talked back in March, we made it a top like a big topic of discussion to talk about education piece and like what that looked like as our predictions for what 2023. And I think that we were right on a lot because you see the education coming out, and we specifically talked about Zell at that time, and you see the education coming out around like protecting yourself from scams. Like the whole pig butchering thing is on the news now. The Zell scams, like the regular Zell scams, are on the news now, like the sending the money. And then oh my gosh, I sent the wrong person. Can you refund? Blah 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 blah. All those sorts of scams are on the news, so people are becoming aware of it, and the banks are sending out these individual emails to say what to be aware of. And the same thing with like IRS, like don't buy gift cards. We're never going to ask you to buy gift cards. Like the that's when we talk about education, that's kind of like that is included in that is educating consumers too about what they could potentially be victims of. But with your stuff, I'm assuming it's doing these assessments and giving education around like what people are doing to their sites. Anything you want to expand on that?
I'm very glad that you brought up that dichotomy of education there. So I've made it a conscious effort to start connecting with people who have more of an influence to the general public. And the messaging, Thomas O'Malley and I have spoken a couple of times, and I try to share his content with my messaging behind it because he talks about identity theft. So when it comes to the education of the general public, I give steps for that, but it's a completely different ballpark. They're watching their actual bank accounts, they're watching their credit cards, they're watching their credit report, they're trying to see if any action is happening whatsoever. So to drill down on these particular methods can be burdensome for the general public. They don't deal with it every day. So there's a different flavor that goes over there. But as to your question on what goes into the organizations and the platforms, when I first came over here, it was shocking how robust my methods were relative to what was being spoken about at the time. And keep in mind, this was 6 years ago, and 10 years ago was the height of my career on the other side of the fence. So what shocked me was we are still being surprised that Jimmy takes Susan's information and types it into a form that we created. I'm still shocked by that. And
Yeah.
so what I tell my clients and my people who are operating in a business sense, go into your platform and identify every opportunity wherein some front-facing form asks for information. if you anticipate at that time that Jimmy's going to take Susan's info and type it in, you can start building something proactively and be prepared for the eventuality that will come. Now, the difference between forms and social engineering for the customer service level is social engineering, answering questions for knowledge-based verifications. So there's that little split there, but they have their own processes, which is actually what birthed the training that I offer. Is everyone who's operating with the technology and the data aggregation systems and answering phone calls and answering tickets, they need to be aware of what's available out there and how to verify the information that's being provided.
So that's super interesting, actually, to me, because I think about like at my own company here is like my staff. So I have Steve and Christopher KDF who report directly to me. Now Steve is the manager of the team, and then KDF is a supervisor of the team, and each one of those guys have two direct reports. We have Abigail, we have Abby, we have Isaac, we have David, and we have Chris, which we call CK. Now those four are the people that are deciding the orders and looking at these orders. So they possess the knowledge in their head of really what the current scams are, and they know what to look for because like they've been trained by Steve and KDF what to look for in our particular site. And our customers, like I always say, is a very unique customer because we do really, really international business in territories that people usually don't, like really emerging markets where there's a lot of fraud normally. And then we have found our diamond in the rough in those territories, and we've been very successful at it. We're having a really good year this year. I think it'll be all over the news in the Q1 of next year about us. People that will finally start asking me or stop asking me about iHerb is it a weed company? Where's the nearest dispensary? Because we're not any of those things. We are health and wellness, but I think that as our brand will be much more aware in the US next year, which will finally help me out a lot. But these people they possess this knowledge. And what we don't do, and I think we're better at it now. Like I've spent a lot of time working with like our customer service and customer experience team. I just had dinner with Eric last week, talking about like kind of educating them on the reasons why that we make these decisions. Because to them, anytime a customer can't complete a form or can't complete a purchase or has some sort of issue, it's a problem. But what they don't understand is sometimes we need it to be a problem to stop them earlier in the process. Like if they can't log in or they have to reset their password, if a person's like, oh my gosh, why do I have to reset my password? It's like, well, we might have saw some activity that wasn't necessarily appropriate, So we would prefer you change your password to keep you safe. And there's the education piece is like notifying the customer as to like why, but without telling them really why. We don't, somebody logged into your account that we wasn't supposed to be in there. Well, that's why we reset your password. Instead of saying like, hey, we just thought we detected there could have been something, and to keep you safe, we would prefer you reset your password to something that you haven't used the last 5 times, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, we need to equip these customer service people that are really the ones that are interacting with the reasons why we did do what we did and how to respond to that and educate. Because we can say, you just respond to that like this all day long. But the inquiring minds want to know, like, okay, why do I need to respond like that? What's the reason that you even lock their account in the first place? And you have to be careful because it's always a balance. You don't want to tell them too much because you don't want them to tell the end person too much. But at the same time, you need to understand, or they need to understand the reason that the actions are being taken, so they're more confident in their decisions. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. There's always this is the 10. Okay, so recently I went through a lot of challenges, and it introduced to me the idea of, as we progress through life, we live in this 10 by 10 box. It's something akin to a submarine in the ocean, and we're just in this 10 by 10 box. We make all of our decisions and all of our variables in our determination processes. They're all very small. They're all very isolated based on it's very subjective, what we've experienced firsthand. And at one point in time, people who work on themselves and grow and develop, they rise to the top. Their submarine comes to the top. They break the surface. They open that hatch and they realize, holy cow, there's so much more going on than what I've experienced my whole life. Now, that same thought process, I feel, applies here. If you go and tell somebody, hey, we saw some suspicious activity on your account, they don't know about it. In their submarine, they don't know about it. And they don't even have any idea of what the submarine might imply to them down the road, if they have like stored payment methods, or if they have sensitive information saved one way or another, anything like this, like what an ATO might be able to what a fraudster might be able to gain from an ATO. They don't have any idea about it. And so how do we bridge that gap? That's the question. How do we give enough for them to take it seriously without making them scared of every interaction that they have moving forward, you know? And I love that you bring that up, because that's what we're dealing with the general public. You and I and all of our merchant friends, all of our banks and the people we deal with, they're in it. They're in the trenches every day.
Yeah.
They're learning how to navigate the war. This new person over here who's 80 years old and never experienced fraud before, being told she's encountering fraud, it's all going to come flooding in. I heard about this fraud stuff, and
and now it's happening to me. The sky is falling. That's why I think like you
Right.
see so many people when like if you I don't know like how many people can ever see their tickets from customer service, but like if you can, you'll see a lot of people that says my account was hacked and I need to know the IP address and the name of the person that did it. And it's like,
Right.
what are you gonna do? Are you gonna fly to like Bulgaria and go like confront Ivan that he logged into your account? You're gonna do nothing about it. Like that doesn't do anything. That doesn't give you. But like to them, it's such an invasion of like their privacy that they've never experienced it, but they don't realize that people are having it happen to them thousands of times every single day. But to them, they're the most important thing. They want to call the police, get them over here. Like we got them working in shifts. You know, like that whole line about that. Yeah, Jimmy down at the crime lab. Yeah, but it's just like nothing's gonna be done about it. But to them, you're right. Like the sky is falling. It's all comes flooding in because now it happened to them. This thing that they might have just really only heard about is happening to them. And how can your company, especially if like, well, how do you respond to that? Give me Ivan's name. Give me his street address. When typically, like the information that's even being shared is like it's another unsuspecting person that's being used too. You know, like
Right.
it could be a mule on that. They don't know what they're doing. You know, Emily the criminal, any of that. But it's just like, how do you respond as an organization to be like, we care, we're super on top of this, like and remedying this, but at the same time, like it's not the end of the world because to them it is, you know, like that's a crazy thing to really think about. I guess I've never really thought about it in that perspective until like right now. Like it's come flooding in on me, as you said right now, that like, damn, I am how I'm replying to these people. Well, I don't reply, but how I tell customer service to reply to these people is probably not the most empathetic way that it should be.
This is how it is.
Yeah,
just
and
do
like
it,
I'm
man.
like, look, this shit happens every day of the week. You use your password probably 15 times on 15 different sites. Like it's bound to happen eventually when you do that. It's kind of on you, buddy. When like they're like, really, it's on you, it's on me. I did this. I don't. It's your site's weak security. It's like no, it's your shitty weak password that really did it.
It's
Honestly,
your password, sir.
oh
Yeah,
man.
man. I always, when those conversations tend to come up, actually, I just helped this credit union, this not nonprofit credit union client. Her whole everything got ripped away from her, and I'm part of this business networking thing. Everything got taken. Her bank account, her personal account, her social security number, all of the social security numbers for all of her family. It was a dire situation, and the spiderweb effect is probably still playing out for her in different ways. But I had to help her, and really, what I do is I just inundate them with, here are the steps, and I wrote it down for her. I texted to her, emailed it. Here are steps you can take. Here are things to check. Here are things to do. As far as retaliation for this single event goes, that's out of her head, and she was really running through the muck. But as for how I would respond, it would be, no, here are instructions to secure yourself at this level. Now, if it's just one username and password combination, okay, ma'am or sir, go ahead and change the password for any platform where you use the same password, because
Yeah.
they have this combination. They'll be able to use it somewhere else. Maybe explain it to them that far. But other than that, I would say for like financial institutions who are dealing with something similar, I would say, hey, here's a copy and paste script type thing that I send over to you with instructions on how to get yourself secure in the other ways you need to be secure. Don't worry about this one occurrence. We stopped it and you're good, but go check out where else this might play out.
Yeah, this is prompting another thought in my head. I was going to kind of take it in a different direction here. I have a single consulting client that I still do consulting for, and I've worked with this fella for a really long time. I like the product. I like the what they sell and where they sell it. And the owner of the organization has become a personal friend of mine. Actually, going to go fly to see him next week, and enjoy some music. But he recently had a spat of fraud on one of their shows that was very specific in a way that it used a credit union, a very specific credit union. It's a credit union called Extra. Have you ever heard of this?
No, that's new.
So here's the problem. So we had identified the fraud just fine. And in order to like we have a pretty good process in place for their staff where they can find these things, but in order to save on processing, merchant processing, we try to find the fraud the same day and void the transaction versus refunding. Because refunding, you still got to pay a fee. Voiding, it just cancel the transaction. You don't have to do it. That's how their payment process works. Just like off settlement, everybody, if you don't realize you're paying off and you're paying settlement, you're paying two different fees. But at the end of the day, like we were trying to say, because the margins are razor thin on this particular product, and we started seeing all of these frauds were all related to this one single bin that was related to this company called Extra, but we were not able to void and we were not able to refund. And this is something that I had not known. I called my friends at JP Morgan to kind of ask some questions too, but I'd never been not able to refund anything. Have you ever not been able to refund anything? Have you ever seen this?
No.
Like straight up doesn't exist. Like it'll fail. It's not allowed. You're not allowed to refund at all. And when my friends at JP Morgan said that prepaid Visa reloadable cards, you're not allowed to refund to. And I don't know if anybody else ever heard it. People put it in the comments, but that's what like I was told. And I've been doing payments for 15 years. I've never not been able to refund, but maybe because a lot of times I don't allow prepaid cards to make purchases. But the sites that I do, like it's just they're so few and far between, especially prepaid reloadable ones, that you just can't. But I feel like we try to do the right thing to like refund the money back to whoever poor sap was actually probably own these cards. Because I think that this credit union, there's two possibilities that I've determined. And I see you wrote it down, so maybe you can do some investigation on your side. But it's either it's a completely fake credit union that's like totally been set up and somehow got some of these Visa bins, or it's been cracked and their prepaid bins have been, because it's not if I use a bin list on two different ones, it wasn't registering as a prepaid card, and on the payment processor it also was not registering as a prepaid card. It was registering as credit actually, but the bin came back to this Extra credit union, and they're like in Wisconsin, and the website looks like shit. I wouldn't believe that it was real, but I think it's more so that the credit union's like bin set has been cracked, or the whole thing has been compromised in some way, like a list of all the cards got scraped somewhere. But they were all different, but they were all the same people, like the same people, same bin, different card numbers every single time. But yeah, couldn't refund it, man. And so basically, we ended up like, long story short, like just blocking the whole damn bin because no other reason. But dude, this thing is like I've never encountered that before. I was just curious if you have.
Walk me through
Mm-hmm.
CVVs, AVS. If it's a prepaid card, I wouldn't expect it to have much historical information.
Addresses were different because it doesn't matter necessarily on a prepaid card.
Right.
So, and I don't remember the CVV response on there. Looking back, it's been a month now. But I would assume it was correct because I think we drew a pretty hard line on CVV because the liability so much. And then I do 3D secure. I 3D secure their transactions to an extent. Like, there's ours obviously strategic. We won't talk about that. But these did pass 3D secure. Now that it's coming back to me, it was successful in 3D secure, frictionless 2.1, and so we don't have like there was no like fraud liability. We just wanted to refund it and put the items back in inventory
right
at the end of the day, and like so like there's no real like hard loss, but it's just like we want to do the right thing.
What was the volume of this attack? Like
there was
how
like
many?
6 of them, 6 total transactions. Yeah.
Okay.
No, there was 11 total 11 total transactions. And they were all identified by our automated system. But in order for the actions to complete on the automated system, it needs to void or refund. And it was trying to void. And then we let the batch close. Then we tried to refund, and it still wouldn't do it.
So it's interesting because back when I had my black hat on, there was this rumor going around that people were able to reverse engineer the track data of certain bins, and they were able to somehow use an algorithm to reverse engineer the true CVV out of the discretionary or out of the track information that was on the track data. Now,
Interesting.
I've never encountered that ever in my life. The second anyone came to me and said, "Hey, you can get the CVV off of the CVV2 or whatever trick they claimed to know," I was good at math and I was good at algorithms, and never once was I able to recreate it. And so, anyway, if had you told me that it was more like hundreds, right, I
Well,
would believe that, hey, maybe this is a bin where it actually did get broken.
well, this particular client, like their product has a finite number. It's like think of it more. I mean, it's tickets, so there's only so many capacity that they could sell at an
Mm,
event, and like they don't do sales every day. You know, like I mean, they're selling stuff every day, but they only like when a show goes on sale, it sells out. It's 6 months out from now, and then they'll do like a few shows a week. So this isn't happening all the time, but and then shows vary in popularity based on who the artist is. It's going to be there, but it was the only time I'd seen it, and I don't know how many more attempts could have happened after the fact because we caught it the same day, you know, and took action on it. But look at this. So I just am sharing. I don't know if anybody's going to be able to see this if we ever choose to release this on video. But here is the website. Now look at this, dude. Like just look at this. This is supposed to be their credit union. Like if you go to these things, it's just like here's loans. There's nothing. There's nothing here. Oh, let me go back here again. There's like zero things here, and then membership. Like attention, all platforms currently experiencing technical difficulties. I wonder if they found out they got cracked. This is
yeah, I don't
interesting. Oh wow, this is new. So it says that their e-bill or Zelle, everything is offline right now.
yeah,
I wonder if they did get cracked. Now looking at all of this, but this website looks like dog shit.
yeah,
Like
that's
this
garbage.
looks like fraud. Like this just looks like completely fake. Like this, if I put something in here, it's going to scrape down some information. Like, what happens if you click on the
Someone
forgot password?
someone from the board of directors for this credit union is going to pop onto your podcast in 6 months.
I mean, I
Say,
might even
dude,
put them in the description just to see what happened here. Look at that, man.
super basic. There's nothing there.
Yeah, look at here's all the code right here. It's just a basic ass web form.
For those listening,
You
we're
even
we're
see
going through the source code and just checking it out.
was the there's no iframe. So what is this box? Is this just a data scraper right here?
That's its sole purpose, dude.
Wow. Okay, well that was super interesting. So either this is a completely fake thing and somehow they got a bin and it is prepaid cards of some kind, or they really did get cracked. What if you look
Which
at their hiring? Let's see what they're hiring for. What cybersecurity people? Teller training specialist and IT technical support specialist. This there's no way this is real. All right. Anyway, there's my story. Sorry, everybody, but that's kind of what we do. This is bros talking fraud right here. So this is just what's gonna happen. Let me stop sharing on that. This is just bros talking fraud. So yeah. So that's my story. That's my recent story. You know, obviously we have some regular stuff happening at iHerb too during the day. You know, but we're pretty locked and loaded. We're in our anniversary sale right now, deep in the trenches, having
good
a
for
good
you,
time
man.
there. What
Have
else
you
is new
recovered?
in? Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah.
have you recovered from the oh, we probably
Hurricane
shouldn't put this.
Hillary coming through.
Let's go with that. Yes. Have you recovered?
Oh, what was the other one? Was it RSV? Because I had RSV at the beginning of the year, and I was good. I'm good there
When we spoke last year, there was a huge. Oh, actually, it had to have been fallout from the year before when the geopolitical landscape
now.
shifted.
We we have, um, without going into specifics, obviously, because we can't. But we have recalibrated, as my team says, when we're golfing and we're playing bad. We have recalibrated, and we have done very, very, very well. We focused on the markets that matter
Awesome.
to offset our Russia business. Uh, we are running a leaner and more agile version of our company, and it's been very well.
Good for you,
It's
bro. Happy to
yeah,
hear it.
we're very happy. We're very stable in our roles now. I think everybody that had to add the multiple hats to their individual roles have settled into what we're doing, and it gave us time as a company to really focus on the core of our business and where we can enhance certain things. And I think that we have really taken the ball and scored a lot of touchdowns lately. So yeah, yeah,
Nice.
we're
Good, man.
good.
I'm happy to hear it.
Yeah, but yeah, I rebuilt after Hurricane Hillary came through and caused a light mist on my house. You
That's
know,
all I've heard, man. Everyone was getting all up in arms and it just kind of crept through.
dude, like so giving my risk side of the business, like I knew, so I stocked up, but I knew that everybody was going to do a bum rush the day before. I knew the stores were going to be blasted, so I did a grocery pickup a couple days before. I got stuff that wouldn't require electricity to cook, snack foods, because I knew we're going to be. They're like, you're going to be out of power for like weeks. I'm like, no, we're not. We're not going to be out of power. I was like, we're going to be out of power maximum 24 hours. So I went and got just like non-perishable items that I could like chips, like stuff like that I could just eat quickly, jerky, those sorts of easy things that like would sustain my life for 24 hours. DoorDash shut off, so you couldn't get DoorDash, which I don't blame him. You didn't know what the risk portfolio was going to be on people driving around at the end of the day.
Right.
But dude, it was nothing. But I was watching people run out of toilet paper again and running out of water, and I'm sitting there and I was just making myself old fashions, watching Justified. I'm rewatching that whole series from the beginning, just hammering old fashions, watching the little bit of rain come down. And I will say that I had far more old fashions than I realized when I finally stood up, but it felt good.
Nice, nice.
Have you you're not much of a drinker, but if you ever are looking for like real good cocktails that aren't like alcohol, they don't feel like alcohol. Or I think they have some mocktails too. There's a really good cocktail place in Phoenix that I highly recommend that you go to. Let me see if I can find the name of the place here while we're doing Bitter and Twisted. It is absolutely amazing. And if you're taking anybody out on a date night, highly recommend. It's on Jefferson Street. It's so and you're up in closer to Scottsdale, right?
Yeah, I guess we are in Scottsdale.
Yeah. Okay. So that you're gonna it's down in downtown area. So if you ever go down there, I don't really know why people really would that much. Maybe to catch a baseball game because that's about all that's down there. But it's right by the baseball stadium, right on. I mean, it's not like Google doesn't. It's on Jefferson and First.
Jefferson and First.
Yeah, I mean it's like
Noted.
right
Thank
down
you.
by the actual stadium. But yeah, the place is so good. Like those cocktails are incredible. Menu is super cool. Like really, it's really like what they call them, foofy cocktails. I got no shame in my cocktail game. I will order a pink drink in any bar. I don't care. Like I'm old enough that I don't need to impress anybody with what I
Right.
order or how I order. I'm going to order exactly what I like, and I like
Yeah.
drinks that taste good.
Damn
Um,
right. I'll tell you one thing that excited me about moving here was so as you know, I'm a metalhead, I'm a death metal head. I love the technical loud stuff. There is a theater here called Nile Theater. And every time when I was in Vegas, every time I would look at these death metal acts that are touring, I'd go down the dates and I'd say, when are they coming to Vegas? And I'd find out they're not coming to Vegas, but they're going to some place called Nile Theater in Mesa, Arizona. And I started to
oh
build this
yeah.
resentment. It's going to cost me $500 every time I want to go see one of these shows. What the heck? Blah, 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 blah. Well, now I'm 30 minutes away from there. So I am excited. So
Oh,
if
it's in
anybody
Mesa.
listening, yes, sir. Mesa, Nile Theater in Mesa.
That's where my grandfather lived in Mesa. That's where I would go when I would go there. But yeah, dude, they got like Census Fail coming for like my emo because I'm an emo guy. I'm an emo.
Listen,
What do they call it? Screamo guy.
yeah,
That's my
yeah,
thing. But yeah, they have this is kind of like our version of, well, I guess now House of Blues, but we have you've heard of Chain Reaction, right?
of course.
Yeah, that's like a mile from my house. Like, so
Nice.
I go there fairly regularly. They sell beer now, which is pretty crazy because it used to be allages.com as their website. And that was like the whole thing is they didn't have alcohol and that's how they could have the all ages. But that's where I've seen some really, really big shows at that place. I saw Andrew McMahon. Actually this poster right back here. This yellow one over here was from when he played it in March 31st, his album release show, which for people that don't know, he used to be in a band called Something Corporate. Then he was in Jack's Mannequin. These were all huge major label bands. And then he decided he's in Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness. He's also on a major label, but he decided to put out his record and do the show at Chain Reaction for 200 people.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
Man, I
this
didn't
is
know he
pretty
was
good.
in
You got
something
Joyce
corporate. That's
Manor.
awesome.
Yeah, he was the main guy at the corporate that time. And they so I actually saw him on this poster over here. It was his 40th birthday, just about a year ago now. That he had a House of Blues in Anaheim, and then that was the something corporate reunion. They had everybody come and play with the band, including William Tell, which is a big deal because they had a big falling out. They were like best friends when they were kids. He's actually married to Lauren Conrad. That guy is William Tell, but it was a big deal that he came out and they played like 5 or 6 something corporate songs. And now they're doing the When You Were Young festival in Las Vegas.
In Vegas now.
Are you
Nice.
going to
That's
this?
awesome.
Are you going to this Fall of Troy show on September 13th?
No, but I'm on the fence about going tonight to Psychroptic and Decrepit Birth.
I see Decrepit Birth, and there it is, man. How could you not?
Right? They're iconic. But that takes
Yeah.
away from time for my daughter, so
Okay, bring her
it'll be
with.
a
Can she
yeah,
go?
right. The setup, it's too
Is
too
it
tight.
all? Is it all general admission? Like
Yeah,
all?
it's effectively a basement that you go into, a corporate basement. Yeah.
They also have a coffee house next door. It looks like too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Pretty cool. See, this is the thing. Is like, this is why like it's hard for me to leave LA is because like I mean, I have access to all these things, and like I got a Disneyland annual pass, and it's like 3 miles from my door. There's so much here, but it's at the same time like I'm trying to pay $1 million for a starter house, and that's kind of ridiculous at the end of the day.
Right.
Yeah. So
I
any
think
other
they'll do
fraud
much better in
stuff, man?
Vegas.
We got a couple minutes. Fraud stuff.
So now we can get to the fraud stuff. Dude, it's I, after my little hiatus, my unintentional hiatus and chaos, I hopped back into the feed over the last couple of weeks, and I started to read up on what are the hot button items of today, and people seem to be talking about the implications of AI a lot, which, in my personal opinion, AI is not real. Stop marketing yourself as AI. Machine learning, 100%. You want to go back and re-loop back and do all that stuff, but as I think I discussed with you before, the thing that shocks me is that we're going around to all of these merchants and all these financial institutions and we're saying, hey, we've got AI, we cracked the code, we have AI, we're powerfully
Yeah.
empowered. And we're selling them on a T1000 from Terminator. But then what we provide them is a Furby in a box. And it's just not the same. I don't think AI is AI. That's my opinion. And I know I'm going to ruffle some feathers with
Yeah.
that.
About
So
eight
that's one.
vendors are going to start sending angry emails. Watch.
How dare you? That's
How we
one.
do it
Two,
is different. Is what they always say. How we approach it is different.
of
And then they
course.
show you, and then they approach it like everybody else approaches it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just it's I just yeah, I just don't get along with the semantics of it. Um, Two is ATOs are still top of mind, and that's crazy to me. So I think it would be worthwhile for your audience to just hear the two primary ways that I would ATO an account back when I was around, and so that way people can just
Do it.
get a little bit more of an idea. So one is the typical way that anyone would go about it. Some of these login credentials are being compromised and they're being shared on the black market and they're going to get typed into a form. Jimmy types Susan's login information into a form. Shocker, he stole her information and typed it in. That's the typical way for in order to identify whether or not this should be allowed to go through. We got session data, we've got PII information, we've got all these different technologies that are focused on that one. Cool, great. I think we're making headway there. It's just people need to become aware that it's, if they haven't encountered it yet, it's right around the curve. So that one is very familiar. But two, and the thing that really shocks me, and actually I just attempted to ATO my own account um, about 90 days ago. I have this really old prepaid card that I used when I first changed my life
Is
over,
it from
and
Extra Credit Union?
no, sir. Um, but so I went in and I said, hey, I don't know any of my information. I don't have any of my information. I did provide my social security number, but a fraudster can get a hold of that relatively easy. And I went through their KBVs in order to reset access. I successfully did it. And they asked me questions that, as a fraudster, I can go onto People Finder and Spokio and Ben Verified and Facebook and find these answers, right? So I think that if I were to bring anything actionable into this conversation, it would be for the people listening to understand that account takeovers, ATOs, happen through very loose KBVs, knowledge-based verification questions that
Yeah.
take place at the customer service level. The social engineering there is very important, and you need a way to verify what it is that they're asking. So anyway, there's something
Yeah.
actionable.
So I think a lot of people, True People Search, the free one that everybody always knows and loves, you could remove yourself from it. I think a lot of people did, especially people in our industry did. But there's another one called Fast People Search, um, that everybody's back on again. Like even I'm on that one again. And you know what? You know what's really funny about it the other day? Um, is I was filling out the wonderful government thing, to the IRS thing. The what is it? ID.me or ID me, that
Yeah.
ridiculous thing. And it's like, you got to put in like where you've lived and all those sorts of things, like to fill out your profile. And I forgot some of the addresses, and I just had to go look myself up on Faster People Search to find out all my previous addresses.
Yeah, that's what is so here's the thing. So let's
Looking at
drill
it
down
right
on that for
now.
a second. If I go through a financial institution system for resetting access to an account enough times, I'll get all 10 of their questions that they ask. Say they
A
ask me
hundred
three
percent.
security questions.
Yeah,
I'll
because I
get
can
all
see
10.
all my old phone numbers. Like, so it'll be like, which one of these have you ever not lived at? Like, I mean, this is almost everything right here, And then which one of these phone numbers is like one of your phone numbers, Like all of those things. And then like what's your parents' names, And here they are. Like, let's see, I'm clicking on my mom right now. Let's see if it shows her maiden name. Let's see. Scrolling. Sure does. There it is, right there.
Yeah, dude. That's all it took to aggregate all the superficial information needed to satisfy KBVs a decade ago, Jordan. Let me specify this.
Mm-hmm.
A decade ago, at the height of my criminal career, what you just did is what we did. The only bridge for the gap is knowing what questions these financial institutions and these different merchants were going to ask. So if I targeted merchant or if I targeted organization A, and they asked me for something like the social, the date of birth, whatever it is, and then some security questions, by the end of attempting that process 10, 15 times, you know all the questions they're going to ask. So now you
Yeah.
take that, the fraudster will take that information, go back to home base, and as they're building out the profiles that I talk about so much, they'll go aggregate those pieces of information before ever making the call, anticipating which questions are going to be asked. And it's sad and scary that here we are a decade later, and this is still a prominently available method for fraudsters to exploit. So there's that. So we talked about AI, we talked about ATOs.
So I'm doing a talk, depending on when we release this. I'm doing a talk on September 14th in LA with Riskified. And I am going to be talking specifically about ATOs. So we're going to be talking about like what people are really doing, and getting information for KBAs is part of it, but a lot of it is like just like stealing stuff from accounts. Let's not store credentials, like taking ticket inventory off of it, taking rewards points, those sorts of things, and just cashing out, because I don't think people think about that enough. If that makes
Yeah, the
sense.
policy exploits.
Yeah, that's what I think. Like I think if people really like, we've talked about it a million times, but I think when you start looking at like promo code abuse, even is a great example of like people creating new accounts using promo codes and then just ripping it again and again and again. And you look like, let's say they get like 20% off every time. If you start adding up all those accounts and all those people that are abusing that, like how much money did you lose as an organization by giving discounts to people that aren't really new people? Like,
Right.
did you have dollars assigned to marketing for that like was like new customer acquisition, and now that money isn't being spent on new customers but being ripped by existing customers that were going to buy anyway? But if you look at like the money loss on those 20%, like it might add up to way more than your fraud losses even. So like I think people need to really step back, especially the fraud people, step back and look at what other people are doing, like how they're interacting with sites and what they're doing. And I think you can use like a lot of these customer experience companies, like a lot of the stuff. I think the new big thing is like companies like Spec, who's been a generous sponsor of mine, and Darwinium, who's also been a generous sponsor of mine. They're doing these things where they're putting their fraud tools, like what they say, at the edge on the CDN level, and that allows them to see all of the traffic that goes to a site, because a site has to be served up by a CDN. So it has to go through a CDN in order to get there, everybody. And I think that that's where you start to see some of the value in a lot of these products that are doing it. And I've been asking like people that have been showing me their fraud tools lately, like, are you doing anything at that level? Because when you're just sitting at checkout, you don't see anything, or you're just sitting at login, you don't see everything. But when you sit at the holistic level and you can see this whole entire customer experience, like you can see where people are going and what they're doing. And I think that that's super interesting, not just from like a fraud prevention thing, but just from like a data standpoint. Like, what are people doing that you're not watching on your site? You know, like really, what are they up to? Where are they clicking? What are they clicking on? You know, all those sorts of things. So, yeah. Any opinions about that?
100%. Absolutely. You drew a very big item that I think you and I were discussing bringing to my podcast, the multiple account fraud. And there's two batches of this. How does a good customer exploit multiple accounts? So we're talking about promotion abuse, policy abuse, refund abuse, return abuse, the whole nine. But then additionally, how much and at what volume does a fraudster exploit multiple accounts? Right. So if I wanted to go, I mean, there's probably, I don't think this will get me in trouble. There's probably 5,000 accounts that have been created on merchant and FI platforms, fintech platforms, gaming platforms. There's probably 5,000 accounts that I created that I never interacted with, never, not
Yeah.
once. I just created it and it's out there. Social media as well, all of these different things, email accounts, the whole nine. Imagine if you only calculated what one good customer was able to get out of your platform using the discounts, the promotions, the returns, the refunds, the various forms of potential abuse versus a fraudster or a dishonest consumer who is actively targeting you, targeting the platform for exploitation. And those numbers, there's a huge dichotomy there, or a huge disparity there. And I think that's very important for people to get in their heads. Is a fraudster doesn't do one thing.
Yeah.
The fraudster does many things. And then that brings up, gosh, moving up from there, it brings up a thing that I'm going to start working on some content for, which is the difference between linear methods. If you think about the fraudster who goes out to the dark web and he gets 200 cards and he goes and types that information in on a checkout form, and now he hits submit and he crosses his fingers. Those carders of the world, the low level, elementary level fraudsters. That's a linear approach. You get the information, you type it in, you hit send. Very linear. The second class of fraud method that I dealt with was called multi-touch. So you meet the requirements of the checkout form, but then you call into customer service and you adjust where it's being shipped so it goes to the house you want
Yeah.
it to.
Yeah, that's so funny because I think for years we've been telling people to turn off their shipping redirects. Apple's been pretty like upfront about it, but a lot of places that I go that I've ever had shipped goods, I'm like, don't allow redirects. And
Right.
we just saw it pop back up again with people trying to do redirects on their shipments here. And I'm like, can't do it. Especially like people that are like in those countries where like it can be kind of dicey on a day-to-day basis, you know, like you have to kind of be sensitive to like, maybe that area got bombed yesterday, you know, like maybe we can't ship stuff there anymore. But at the same
Right.
time, like we need to be protecting the consumer and not allowing redirects, you know. So it's a little bit of work that goes into it on our side, but that was always the classic way is like you use everybody's information to buy a MacBook. Like I use your information to buy my MacBook. And then after it's all said and done, shipping to your address, I call up and say, actually, can you reship that over here to Fullerton for me, please? And then I
Exactly.
wind up with your MacBook. But at the checkout, at the time the fraud tool scanned it, everything was legitimate and seemed normal, you know? Yeah.
I'll do a shameless plug here. This is why training for the fraud teams is so dang important. If you get these calls, you got to know what's out there for you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's an excellent point. You know, like the customer service, like we should be telling them, hey, redirects, like be on the lookout for people trying to redirect package. It should be part of their training, you know, like look out for that. And it's documentation also is super important. Like a lot of companies use Confluence, you know, where you can like it's kind of like a wiki for internal documentation. We use it here. I use it at Ticketmaster. Kind of just put like best practice. We're in the process of kind of adding like creating like I guess a manual of what like fraud fighting is. So like we like a knowledge base in there so that like not only my team can reference it as needed, but like the customer service team can like maybe type in like redirects, be on the lookout for, you know, education, you know, look out for this type of situation, this type of person trying to exploit. If that makes sense.
so the third tier. So we went linear, we went multi-touch. The third tier that I identify. Now imagine if I go and make a Walmart account, I'm sorry, Merchant A account, and they allow third-party payment processing and or third-party payments. Well, I go over there and I make an account under Billy Bob McGee, right? That's the Walmart profile. It all lines up. I verify everything. Cool, great. I get to the checkout form and I go over to PayPal. I click pay with PayPal. And I use one of these accounts that I've compromised on this side. Now, where's the liability?
That's
Where's the verification?
that is so important because I always argue that on PayPal, and I know that somebody at PayPal is probably going to listen to this, and they're probably going to be boiling, but I don't understand why the merchant has liability when a payment instrument inside PayPal is used fraudulently. And I know they have seller protection and all that, but the burden of the proof has to lie on the merchant to say it qualifies for seller protection. I, as a merchant, cannot see what the funding method is inside PayPal. It should not be my problem. PayPal should be validating that information on their own side and should be taking the liability if they validated it. It is not my problem that somebody used a fraudulent payment method inside PayPal when using PayPal to pay for goods on my site. That is my opinion, and I will stand by that till the day that I die.
I'm with it, bro. I can't do verification when all it says is they paid through platform A, B, or C. Okay, great. Where does my tech get to take over? Where do I get to draw an accurate determination and let the good guys through and the bad guys not? So I'm with you 100%, and I won't stand shoulder to shoulder, but I'll stand behind you.
A little bit behind. That's funny.
No, I agree entirely. So yeah, those are the three categories. If we were to categorize every method on the planet, you got the linear approach, the multi-touch approach, and the multi-system exploits. And within there are more. I used to do third-party ATOs. I used to do ACH payments and check payments, wire transfers, deposits, withdrawals. There's a whole list of third-party or multi-system exploits that I used to participate in. And how do we get coverage there? So I'm looking at where we've been struggling for a decade to cover ground where I was before. And I'm trying to piece together these holistic, again, landscape holistic, not just one single organization or one industry. And I'm trying to put together what we might be able to do to bridge those gaps, because it's only a matter of time before somebody puts out a handbook talking about the methods that I did a decade ago. I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet. And if it happens to be multi-touch for one transaction or multi-system for a transaction as a reliable method, we're not prepared. I'm sorry, we're just not.
Yeah, I'm going back. I'm still thinking about like the PayPal thing because Visa's launching this new thing where it's like kind of like it's a token based situation. But again, we're going to lose the insight into a lot of information from the PAN. They're trying to get away from FPANs being used.
We were discussing this at MRC, I think, right?
Yeah, and like they think they did, and then they had like the MRC had those webinars the other day with Visa and then MasterCard like the next day. Yeah. Talking about their upcoming changes, but Visa was touting like their new, I guess it's not really a wallet, but it's like it functions like one where it's kind of like a secure payment method that you can get like a token and pay. And I'll have to go back and revisit that because I'm not super clear on it. But I remember I was side chatting with Steve on my team, and we were talking about like, okay, great, there goes our insight into the BIN information. So we don't know what bank it's coming from. We don't know what level of consumer it is. We lose a lot of information about the individual transaction. And I actually saw somebody on LinkedIn posting about it the other day. I forgot who it was too, but talking about like all of these wallets are kind of taking away a large chunk of our insight into the risk portfolio of like, or the risk profile of this individual transaction by obscuring more and more and more of the details about the individual transaction. Like we used to anchor on like the BIN. So the certain BINs have certain risks. Extra credit union sucks. Nobody should be taking any extra credit union at all. But at the same time, like I need to be able to see that, because if that customer was inside a wallet, and granted there was other signals that we were able to catch it, but if it was like a regular consumer, but an ATO, if it was an ATO account, for example, but using a wallet all of a sudden, I would have no insight into what our common thread was at the beginning of these that helped me link them all together. And I think that like I understand everybody's privacy and all that, but a BIN isn't a privacy thing. Like that's just a piece of intelligence that I think we need to know. I think that the fund, if we're going to be liable, and I want to preface it with that, if the merchant is going to be liable, then we need to have the intelligence of what the funding method is. It is just
Surprise.
that simple. And no matter what, like Visa, MasterCard, PayPal can put all these wonderful things out, Apple Pay, and say how great and secure and private everything is. But what are they doing for me who's selling the product? Like what's in it? Like the what about me? You know, I SADs too, like Anthony Jeselnik thing. Like, what about me? Like, what about me? What are they doing? Because merchants paying these fees to like the interchange fees, we're the ones that are paying the big money. Like, why do you keep screwing me over? Because you know, I can turn off American Express if I want to. I can turn off Discover. I can turn off PayPal if I choose to. And like if you push people far enough, like look what like Walmart was doing when they started strong arming. I think it was Visa when they're like, we're not going to take Visa cards anymore because of the interchange rates that Visa just decided they're going to do. They're doing it again. They're raising interchange rates again, and they're like basically like, well, what are you going to do about it? Not take Visa? Yeah, right. And Walmart years ago finally did step up and say, yeah, we're not going to take Visa, and like at the sacrifice of their customers. But you know, at the end of the day, the Visa I think backed down, if I remember correctly. They did back down for Walmart, but you know, like you can do that from time to time. But now the federal government's starting to look into the price fixing of what's happening with the networks on their interchange fees. Like that recent raise, like I just saw the other day, that the FTC is going to look into that. So probably good, probably time.
Yeah, that'll be good. I think that you raise an interesting point. If you remove information from us, what do we then use? If the primary focus is to protect PII and sensitive information, what can you give us if you're taking that away? And
If you want to take it away, then take the liability for it. Then
right. So that's one path, and I'm totally with that. Well, not that I matter, but I'm just saying, like, I agree with that. But two, when they take away specific information, I do constantly revert back to the idea of creating a code system where, like, how the AVS, it tells us what is correct and how it's correct. Well, imagine in this new setting if this third party payment option tells us, hey, the name we have on file matches the name you submitted. Okay, the address we have on file for this card on our platform gives us that. Something akin to AVS, but more expansive.
well, that's where this is coming to this new thing where you know you and I have talked about in the past, but like a kind of like an identity token that kind of validates that the person is who they say they are, whether through some sort of authentication process each individual time. So I have actually have Intersect coming on here in a couple of weeks, and they have a solution that they've done in this space, and they work alongside MasterCard pretty closely. I think some of the other brands, but it's kind of fades into passkeys. It's like it's a passwordless authentication situation, but when you're authenticated using it, it basically is authentic that you're really that person. And I think that that's where we really need to hold on. My sister is calling me. Hey, is everything okay? Okay, I'll call you back. I'm recording a podcast right now. Okay, let me call you back in like just a little bit here. Sorry, I just when you called, I didn't know. I thought somebody like I I did not get in my wine. Okay, bye. You there?
You didn't get eaten by a lion?
No, my wine. Um,
Oh, why?
yeah, no. So I went up and saw her in May. She lives in Walla Walla, Washington, and I joined one of the wineries up there. It's a place called Contos. The wine was really good, so I joined the wine club, and apparently they shipped the wine. I got this one random email, but I didn't get my wine. So Intersect is going to come on the show and talk about their solution for this passkey thing, and what they're doing is interesting because it's kind of like I don't have all the details on it. I just have what I've talked to them very briefly about and put some notes about. But I'm hopefully going to wade through all of this and find out if there's an option there in the future to use a service like them to authentically authenticate an actual individual and then possibly get a liability shift of some kind if we do that. And like I hope that like their partnerships with some of the card networks would lead to something like that. But this is I don't know them very well. I don't know any of their BI people or anything that's happening behind the scenes at all. I just say like in my perfect world, using a product like them that's biometrically authenticated, that when I see that appear on my site, I know it's them and I'm safe to transact with them. Like that's a huge difference maker in like the future of what authentication could be. Like you could people logging in and transacting could be different, because then I don't need to know all the individual pieces of information about the payment method if there's no liability on my side because this person was authenticated in some way. And if they choose to do some sort of thing on their side, like if they claim fraud or something, like there has to be some sort of liability to the consumer. I don't know. There has to be something there. But if I, as a merchant, once I authenticate them, I don't have to worry about anything else because it's all them. And obviously, I have to worry about shipping the product and delivering a product that's said to be the product that it's supposed to be. But if I don't have any fraud liability or scam liability, like that's huge. You know what I mean?
I agree. What kind of biometric do they use?
I don't know, but I would say that they probably use on device and passive. That I mean, hopefully Intersect will really peel back the layers for me on that, and I'm really excited to have them on because I have a lot of questions. But I think that product is one of the most exciting products uh, in the identity verification and not IDV as far as like taking a photo of yourself, but like really identity space that I've seen in a really long time.
Nice. Yeah, I made a note here. Is it the one Intersect with a K?
Yeah,
KT?
that's correct.
Yeah.
It's like green.
I've spoken to them before, but maybe I'll go touch base with them again. Awesome,
That
man.
it's a really cool product, and a guy that I used to work at Visa at Cardinal Commerce named Greg that I've known for a long time. He just went to work for them, and I was pretty excited when he went and saw that pop up as his job change. So, yeah,
That's cool. And it's a truly holistic technology that could be applied anywhere. Someone puts in a request to customer service. Well, hey, we're going to send you a verification to the app real quick. Hey,
yeah,
you want to place this order? Well, this is a new card, or it's got a yellow or an orange flag on it. Can you just verify, what it is? And, or yeah, that can help with a lot of escalations. That can help with a lot of requests. It just depends on where their information's coming from and how easy it is to manipulate the information that they rely on. And I think that's a really important aspect of the multi-system exploits that I used to take advantage of. Was if you go to low platform or low KYC platform A, B, and C, and you inject poisonous data into the aggregated data sets that exist, you then can move over to platforms 5, 6, and 7, which rely on the data I injected at those initial platforms and get things to seem reliable when they shouldn't be.
that's another thing that like so many fraud providers, especially like new salespeople that are new into this industry or new entrants into the fraud space, because it's still a very lucrative space for a lot of people. But they are like, well, we have all this network data. Like you could like our network of merchants like sets us apart. I'm like, well, for good and bad, like people tagging good or people tagging bad, like can completely influence like the decision. When like my business, how like the customers that I do business with, people wouldn't do business with anywhere else but my company. Like it's just how it like a big box electronics retailer is not going to send a PlayStation to the middle of Africa, but I'll send $500 worth of pills there. Like
Right.
that's the difference. Is like, so me marking those customers as good might not necessarily be the right thing for big box retailer, and vice versa for them. Like they're people that bought an Xbox and then charged it back. Like they might not be charging back vitamins. So it goes both ways. At the end of the day, like I like to take the influence from network stuff, but I still like to make my own decisions on our internal platforms.
Man, we could go on forever, bro. That
We
just brought
could.
up another good point. Is I said this a few months ago. I was having a call and I said there's a problem in the fraud industry where I believe we've reached critical mass on the viability of our data. We've until now said there's no such thing as too much data, right? But now you go through some of these providers, they're the data that they use for these determinations, and you see what the historical performance has been, and you realize, well, hey, that shouldn't have been clarified, or it shouldn't have been disproved or denied or approved in that way for that reason. I disagree with it. So now we're
Yeah.
dealing with untrained people. I won't say untrained, but I will say we're dealing with people who don't have expertise in particular use cases, who are saying this is a bad transaction, and we're relying on it being a bad transaction
Yeah.
6 months down the road for different
So
use cases. Yeah.
I can give you an example of that. Like years ago, I used a at my company used this one of the email verification services. I won't say the name of the one, but it was one where you can self mark if a transaction was good or bad with you as a merchant. And then you could, a couple of days later, go back to that same record and see that because you said it was bad, it now was displaying as bad to everybody. But where the problem is there's two main parts to this. The problem is like, just because I had a personal quarrel with that customer doesn't mean that you will. Like we might have had a disagreement, and I might have, as a merchant, not shipped them the product, shipped them the wrong product, and refused a refund. So then they charge back, which like was the appropriate course of action there. Now, that's a personal vendetta, you know. But at the same time, we were starting to see the end users of that product relying on it like a crutch. So right. They would just take whatever was in there as gospel. So that was kind of like their workflows. They would just copy and paste. And if it said good, if it said bad, that's what they would do. Not using like any sort of investigation any deeper than that. You know, it was kind of like the easy way out was to use that product. So we had to kind of like slow down their roll on that use because, you know, over reliance on a single piece of technology that then has single points of failure that like personal vendettas could completely ruin the effectiveness of the product wasn't really the right thing to do. Because then because somebody else had a bad time, then my team declines that order. Then that person calls in mad at customer service, goes on Twitter, X, whatever we call it today, and complains about it. And then we have a whole world of hurt because of some false positive situation.
Dude, you're making all my points for me. If a team is adequately trained and adequately effective at using the data and the tech that they have as a tool, not an end all be all, not sole reliance on the tool, but to use the tool like a hammer. I heard this saying the other day: if you put a samurai sword in the hands of a 4-year-old, what if you put that same samurai sword in the hands of a samurai, or a katana in the hands of a 4-year-old versus a katana in the hands of a samurai? Right. Yeah. So we need to build more samurais in our space. And unfortunately, the main value prop for, you know, fraud tech companies is we'll do it all for you. You don't have to use any type of language, or you don't have to use any type of self-determination processes. We'll do it all for you. Well, you can't account for every single use case across every single industry, across every single platform, you know, established platform, in the way that they're organized and the way that they perform. I dude, loving it. Absolutely.
Yeah. There was one of the main instant decision fraud companies years ago used to have their marketing being like, you could just lay off your whole manual review team. You don't need your manual review team anymore. And then I remember people were buying into that, and I was telling people, I'm like, that's probably not a good idea. And then a couple of the merchants that came back and bit them in the ass later down the road. But, you know, so in reality, we could go all day, but we can't go all day at the same time. So I think we're going to come back and we're going to do an episode with you and Brian. Hopefully Brian will be on board with that. I don't see a reason why he wouldn't be. And let's talk about like how we set baselines for different types of fraud manuals and education. So we can keep the education thing going, and let's just talk about it, you know, and then we'll just see where we go from there. And let's keep doing this bros talking fraud, because this was a lot of fun. We could just, I like the parts where we talk about just regular stuff too. You know, it's not just so dry and fraudy. People are going to hear all about me wanting to move to Las Vegas, all about me buying houses now. They're going to hear all about us talking about sushi, you know, so, and that'll break up the day a little bit, but we have a lot of nuggets in here as well, you know, so let's keep doing these.
I'm totally down. Let's make the schedule and make it happen, Captain.
All right. Well, thank you again for jumping on here, even though I literally texted you 10 minutes before and said, let's just jump on and talk fraud and record it. Thank you for being open to that, because I think it went really well.
Oh, yeah, me too, man. This was awesome. It's great to catch up with you.
You always, man. And we'll talk soon, man.